Welcome, Gloria. Or should I
Thank.
call you Grace?
Yes, call me Grace. I'm leaning into that more.
Well, this morning you were doing a live that was streamed on Facebook, and you did briefly mention grace. Maybe you can give me a little bit about that before we go into the deeper parts.
Well, it is my middle name. It's the one my mom gave me. And when I've started going on this spiritual journey over the last 6, 7 years, we're almost into 2025. So yeah, well, yeah, or we are in 2025. And yeah, so I decided that I should use my middle name professionally because it is part of who I am, and I needed to embrace that. And then I guess it was maybe last year. I think it was at the beginning of the year. I had a good friend who does channeling. She does the Akashic records and things like that. And it was coming through that you need to use the name Grace because Gloria is your past and Grace is your future. And so I've spent like all of 2024 sort of wrestling with that and kind of toying with it and playing with it and trying to figure out how to do it on social media and and so I wound up putting Grace in quotes on like LinkedIn, and Facebook really wouldn't even let me do it, so I put it in parentheses. And then I decided I need to check this out for myself. So like a few weeks ago, I'm like, okay, what name should I go by? Gloria? And I did a little pendulum work and was like, Grace. Okay. All right. So I'm leaning into Grace, and because I think it is probably my future, and the Gloria is the past. It was served me well for a long time. And I want to embody more grace in the world and give myself grace and give that to others as well, I guess.
Well, the timing for this is impeccable. As I mentioned, I heard you this morning streaming live and talking about some very deep topics that I truly resonated with. And I just recorded with another friend who's a spiritual entrepreneur who talks about courage and intention setting. And one
Mm,
thing that came up was having more grace as a spiritual entrepreneur. And I
mhm,
believe that is a challenge for many, for myself,
mhm.
self grace. Maybe you can share a little insight you may have on that topic.
Yeah, I resonate with that so much because and also even just I've been a business owner for over 15 years, and in working with different clients over the years, or meeting different clients, like, or meeting different entrepreneurs and networking and things. And I think that the spiritual entrepreneurs in particular, number one, we're all heart-centered and we want to just give, 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 and we want to support our clients as best we can. And so then we sometimes aren't doing this best a good a job of like pricing our services or even you know selling our services because maybe we're wanting to like give stuff away too much. And then we're also, because we're like givers, 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 then when things don't go wrong, or things don't go right. See, I love that. Even when I speak, I can screw up, and I've learned to give myself grace when I do that and to not beat up on myself, because I used to like, oh my gosh, this perfectionist syndrome, I think I think a lot of what we get into sometimes too. It's like we want everything to be just right, and it's not always going to be just right. And my mom had a friend who loved to crochet, and she would just say to just like, you know, getting it done is better than getting it perfect. You're going to drop a stitch here and there, but because my mom would like rip all this yarn out, and because if she saw something and then start all over again. And yeah, and I was young, maybe, I don't know, 10 or 11, but I remember Virginia telling my mom, no, it's just done is better. You can always go back later. And in business, I think sometimes it is. Done is better. You can go back and fix it later. Maybe you are recording a podcast, or I'm right now, I just finished up a 4-week program. That was the first time I ever launched it. And I was honest with the people who signed up and said, this is brand new. I want your help. I need, your feedback. Tell me what did work, what didn't work, so I can make it better. And last week, I had some really wonderful feedback from the woman who said, it's not quite delivering what I thought you were going to deliver. It's more personal than the business stuff. And that's okay, but that wasn't what I expected. And I'm like, my old self would have been like, oh, I'm crushed. Oh gosh. Oh no, what am I going to do? And now it's like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me make some changes. Let me rethink this. Who do I want to serve? How do I want to serve them? And what would be the best way to do it? And so now I can start thinking about that because I'm going to launch it again in a couple months, but I want to really get some more clarity on what direction to go with that. Hope that answers your question.
That's been a constant for me is done is better than perfect. And because there's so many hats we wear as
Mm,
entrepreneurs, and I'm very much a techie person, so I do all the technical development work as well,
yeah.
and all the hats, and you get just so far. The metaphor that I use is I'm like the person who is learning to drive a stick shift, only I'm not very good at it.
Been there. I have tried to learn how to do that, and it was painful.
I still don't know how to drive a stick shift, but
Yeah.
I'm saying that it's nothing is linear, nothing is everything requires some trial and error. And I mean,
Mhm.
like just case in point, you know what a lead magnet is. For
Yes.
those who are listening, not familiar with the marketing world, it's something that you're giving away for free as a value add to whatever service you have. It could be a checklist or a guide. And I had put together a really clever one. I finally had the guts to get it out. And then I had a really good friend who's a copy editor. She gave me some
Mhm.
great feedback. It was out there. I thought it's brilliant. It's smart. It's helpful. And I had someone in my cohort come back, and she was trying to do that sandwich method where you say something good,
Yes.
give them the feedback, and then and I could see it for what it was. I'm like, oh, it's the sandwich method. And in between, she's like, and I got to the end, I was disappointed. I'm like, are you kidding me? But I was like, well, I don't have time to waste. I'm going to go ahead and take the input and refine. It wasn't actually a big change, but just
Mm.
enough.
Yeah.
And yes, so having that, I said mindset,
Hmm.
it helps. And this
Yeah.
concept of spiritual entrepreneurship sometimes might to others seem like some esoteric thing, but no, at the end of the day, we're doing the work of
Mhm.
mindset and technical stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that stuff still has to get done, no matter what. But I think for me, I think being a spiritual entrepreneur is really leaning more into our heart and really coming at business from that heart-centered place. And yeah, I think that's where it boils down to. Because I mean, if you Google like, okay, what is a spiritual entrepreneur, or go on to AI, ChatGPT or something, and it's like they give you like there's like a dozen or more different types of businesses that it can be. So it's you have to kind of drill down and figure out what is really the core of that. And I think it's tapping into maybe your spirit and your client's spirit and presenting what you have to offer from that, keeping that in mind, that you're really trying to have their best interest in heart. Not to say other entrepreneurs don't, but I think it's more foremost in our minds, perhaps. I don't know. I'm not sure, but
Well, I think what I hear you saying when you said that it's heart centered is that we're starting there as the intention,
hmm.
and intention is energy, so that
Mhm.
helps. And this is why, okay, this is a good segue for a couple of things I want to go deeper in. Everything starts often with that why,
Hmm.
and I have my own journey and story, but perhaps you can take a step back and share the why that became the catalyst for your journey on the path that you're in, and also maybe tell us a little bit about your book.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So Yeah, it's interesting. So my journey, I mean, originally I started my business doing SEO copywriting. So that's for those listening who may not know, search engine optimization, helping small businesses get their websites found on Google. And was doing okay, not the greatest, but I was making a living. I was getting there, making some traction. And then in 2015, my sister was diagnosed with cancer. She was my older sister, last member of my family. Um, Backing up, I'd sort of already been sort of tiptoeing into this spiritual journey because I started doing Reiki around maybe 2003, 2004. I got certified as a practitioner. Then I started meditating right when I started my business in 2009. But it was really going through the process of my sister Michaela's cancer journey that sort of catalyzed everything because we started having heart-to-heart talks. What do you believe in? She was given, it was stage 4, not a good prognosis. And so she did basically, what was it, 18 months later, she had transitioned. And the as hard as that was, there were some wonderful gifts along the way. Because she was 10 years older than me, we actually got to spend time together and compare childhoods. And 2 months before she passed, meditating, like I always do every morning. And this idea popped into my head that said, you should write a book about love. And I'm like, but I do marketing. What the heck do I know about love? That's crazy. I don't understand. And yet I, for whatever reason, still hopped on my computer afterwards and said, okay, if I wrote a book about love, what would it be about? Love is an acronym. Okay, sure. All right. That sounds cool. I like acronyms. You see them in marketing all the time. They're great. So it turned out to be that the L was let go and let God. The O was open your heart to receive. The V was value your uniqueness. And the E was embrace your divinity. And I went, okay, interesting. I'm not quite sure what to do with all of this right now. And then life got in the way. I had to go fly out to Tucson to be with my sister. She landed in the hospital. And so I sort of put it on the back burner for a while, didn't really think about it. And then once I did finally dive into writing about it, and I think it was either before or after I got the subtitle, which is How to Stop Doubting Yourself and Start Being Yourself, was when I realized why I had to write a book about love. It was because I had to learn how to love myself. Isn't that always the way? We teach what we need to learn. And the book turned out to be much more memoir than I thought as well, because I wound up, as I'm like trying to figure out what do these things mean, and I'm writing every week, it was like, oh, yeah, I kind of see in my business where I wasn't valuing myself, or, where I'm not opening my heart to receive help, like not hiring a VA, or when I did, it turned out disastrously, or not raising my rates when I had a longtime client. I mean, for years, and it took me about 3 years before I finally got up the nerve to say, "Oh, I'm going to raise my rates for next year." And they're like, "Okay." Great, great. Why didn't I do this every year? I should have been doing this. It took my daughter, who majored in business in college, to like clue me in on, Mom. I'm like, oh. This was my first foray into business. I have no entrepreneur. I had an uncle who was an entrepreneur, but wasn't close to him. So I didn't know, none of this stuff came naturally to me. So I'm just kind of picking it up as I go along, attending webinars and all these things that we do, and hiring coaches and trying to figure it out. And a lot of times trying to figure it out on my own, which is also a trap that we get into, because we really do. It takes a village sometimes to not only grow a family, but to raise a family, but to raise a business. And it doesn't necessarily mean hiring people all the time. It can be, I mean, employees I'm speaking of, but it can be hiring coaches and, taking webinars, reading books, and learning. So yeah, so that's how the book came out. And I was delighted when I finally got to have it published in 2021 on my sister's birthday, which was February 21st. And I loved the synchronicity of the numbers. It was like, because I was finally getting it done in 2020, and my publisher's like, well, when do you want to have it released? I'm like, well, February's good, heart month, you know. And then I was like, wait, Michaela's birthday. That would be perfect. 2/21, 2021. Yes, that's what I want to have it be. And so it's out there, available for sale everywhere, pretty much. Well, online everywhere, I should say.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention the numbers because I've often had those moments where the numbers play a huge role in life. And
Mm.
whether it's a moment of celebration or moment of triumph or whatever, those
Mhm.
play a role. And sometimes you trust the universe that there's something bigger at play in all of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I did too. I was like, oh, well, that's why it took me so long to write the book in the first place. And then to get it out there was because my sister was just orchestrating this from beyond. I truly believe that. I mean, she even helped me, I know at one point, because I was stuck for something. And then I just had this inclination to go pull out one of her journals that she was keeping. And it was like, because we both grew up in the same family. We had a dad who was an alcoholic, and so she had also issues with self-worth and this as well. And so I included what she had to say in the book because it was like it was really talking about, who is she to imagine beating cancer. And it was like, kind of broke my heart. And it was like, I wanted you to. But it wasn't her journey to do. So that's how that goes. But anyway.
And I feel like those moments where it might be moments of pain, but it's also moments of expansion because you were expanding with her on a more
Hmm.
deeper spiritual level.
Yeah.
Um, Now, the entrepreneurial side, I have something to explore with you is of the way in which you and I met.
Hmm.
Part of a community, you are still, but
Yeah.
a community of, I think, I don't know what the right word is, but people who use a particular software for AI for
Yeah.
creating content for podcasters or anyone that has audio out there, video, I
Right.
suppose. And
Yeah.
I would love for you to share something that is you're uniquely qualified to share, which is the role of spirituality in AI
Mm.
agent.
Mm.
And while I have loads to say about it and opinions, um, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's like anything. It's a great tool, and I use it a lot. I mean, almost every day, I think at this point, and in some fashion, whether it is using the software that we both use, which has really been instrumental in helping me get more content out there. But I also use like Claude, and I will sometimes go also to ChatGPT, and I have another one that I've used. And it's wonderful for generating ideas. It's wonderful for even doing first drafts of things, I think is great because in fact, I was doing this today, I think, as a matter of fact, I was having it. Oh, I know. It was helping me with like um, was it the live stream maybe even or something else. And I had it like working with an introduction or something. And then I looked at that and I was like, okay, yeah, there's some good things here, but I need to tweak it more and make it my things. Oh, I know. I was doing some comments on LinkedIn. That's what it was. And I was like, okay. So it's like, answer this question. And it answered the question. And I was like, okay, well, that's your opinion. Let me see what I can do now. It's like, I like that, but I want to infuse my own personality into it. And that's what is still, it can get really close on some things, but I think it's still, it's still missing that spirit, that we provide and that we have. And we, owe it to, frankly, ourselves and our audience, I think, to be able to infuse it with that spirit, to be able to put our stuff on it. Because you can, I'm sure you know, and I saw somebody else like doing a video about this on LinkedIn talking about that. You can tell when something is like just totally AI and they haven't done a thing to it. And it's true. I mean, especially I'll see like people commenting on posts and it's like, yeah, I think I've even done it. I've even seen a response similar where I had ChatGPT write that, same thing. I've seen that kind of language and it's like, and then I'm like, no, I need to go in and finesse it a bit. So you have to put yourself into it. So yeah, just it's great for starters, getting you started. I do like it for coming up with titles, but even then, I will sometimes take maybe it gives me 5 title suggestions and I'll take the first part of one with the second part of the other and then put them together because it was like, it's not quite there. It's close, but not quite. And that's part of you putting you into it.
Absolutely. And I think what I'm hearing you say is something that deeply resonates with my opinion as well, is that it is great as a starter, a brainstorming platform. And
Hmm.
for those who are maybe not quite familiar with AI, um, when we say things like ChatGPT or Claude, they are part of a specific kind of AI called large language models, which basically looks at um, how language is parsed and then optimizing on how language is produced, copy is produced. And what the beauty of this is that you can iterate like as though you have an intern in the room
Hmm.
going back and forth. And I can tell you that for me, and the word I use all the time lately for a lot of what I do is streamline. It's
Yeah.
streamlined my life. It's streamlined,
Yes.
again, the challenges as we both articulated moments ago
Hmm.
is that being an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, where you wear so many hats, is so challenging and so um, taxing on the mind, the body, and
Hmm.
spirit. But going back to our why, we are doing what we are doing for a more deeply spiritual reason. We want to give more energy to our purpose and being more present. And
Hmm.
if AI is going to help you get there, then it's doing its job. That's why I call it spiritual AI.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great for like helping you in your business. And I will say that I've started to play with Substack. And so yesterday I actually wrote something all by myself. And I'm like, this is coming from the heart. And it was like, that felt good. It's like because I think sometimes it's good to do that is to do your own writing even without relying on AI at least once in a while. And I do journal every morning, so that is one way that I am, getting my creative juices flowing. And I think that's also helping me in being able to then take what AI gives me and then say, okay, yeah, let me change this a little bit and do that. But it did feel good to just say, yeah, this is just me spontaneously coming out. It was like haven't done that for something that's being going to be seen by other people in a while because I have been, because it is when you're doing it with your business, as you said, especially as a solopreneur, we've got only so many hours in the day to get stuff done and have a life too. Ha ha. That radical thing of being able to, maybe be with family or friends or, take a walk or practice self-care. So you need to make time for that too. And so if AI can help streamline, I do love that word, then it's okay to use it. Just use it wisely.
Using it wisely. And obviously, there's a new generation of people like my son who may be at some point very soon being introduced to AI. And it's not what we did back. I remember writing one of my first reports. I used to love research. I think that that's why I went on to doing more research in corporate world. But that
Mhm.
was always fun for me, doing a research report. And one of my first ones was on Shakespeare.
Oh,
I just remember being in the library and having little note. Do you remember the little cards and you write out,
yeah.
and then you piecemeal it together. Then you figure out what's factual. How do you make it interesting?
Mhm.
I believe that in with the intention of doing it accurately, there are ways to do it. And I want people to, the fear that many have is, oh, you lose your authenticity, that it's going to write it for you. But you have control.
Hmm.
It's just like back in the days of when Google first came out, and you could have just, done some hypothetical research and taken the facts for what they are. But now, like when I write a paper, there's something called perplexity, or write
Oh, yeah. I like that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
I forget what I do. I use it almost daily. So I'll have a window open with Perplexity, and I'll say,
Mhm.
"Can you give me 5 articles that cross-reference this stat?" One of them was on women in AI and what percentage of women use AI. And then I can use that quote with credibility in the
Right.
text, right? So
Yeah.
there's a method to the madness of this, so to speak, you know. But going back to the method to the madness, when you and I met, I did and do still continue using um, tools like CapShaw, which is for podcasters primarily, but you could use it for other
Right.
tools. And there's something called Descript.
Mm.
Essentially, for those who don't know, podcasting is an iceberg. You see the tip of the iceberg,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm having this conversation with you, and people will see clips and maybe the cover of the podcast and think, oh, that's fun. What they don't know is I have a mic that was very expensive. There's lighting, there's a scheduling tool, there's
Mhm.
coordination back and forth. There's the recording and then transferring of the recording, creating the transcript, piecemealing all of that piece of data to make sure that then it's valuable, monetizable content at some point, right?
Right.
When you're done, you have show notes, you have YouTube notes. You need to make sure that it's SEO friendly so that somebody will click on it. So now you get the picture. That's
Yeah.
70 to 80% underneath the water, right?
Hmm.
These kind of tools like CapShaw help you get there. So I could pop in this video into something like, say, CapShaw, and within
Hmm.
a matter of minutes, it'll give me 5 titles based on my persona. My
Hmm.
avatar are high achieving female entrepreneurs who are pivoting or transitioning that are so soulful and spiritual, right? So,
Right.
having said that, share with me what has been like this aha, like the first time you ever used it for yourself.
Oh, well, and I've been using it for quite a while now, but I gotta say is that it has evolved wonderfully and just gotten so much better from when I first used it, maybe over a year, maybe it was early on and when they were first starting and there were a lot of bugs. And then they got wise and said, let's focus on one thing first. But I mean, my biggest love right now is that it knows it knows my voice and it knows when I make changes and then it remembers those and incorporates those because now when I do like a LinkedIn newsletter, which I do, I don't have to change too much. I really don't. And which is lovely. I mean, I still, again, as we say, I still want to go in and tweak it. And oftentimes I tweak the beginning part because sometimes AI, and this is, I think, across the board on AI, they sort of get stuck in like, we want to do it this way. We want to always start it with a question. Ever do this? Ever do that? And I was like, okay, I did that, last week. I can't do that this week. Let's start with a declarative sentence this time, and then maybe ask the question afterwards. But yeah, it really has just made my life easier because I love sharing content that gets engagement, which is also the lovely thing is that people do comment on when I share a newsletter and they will like it. And so yeah, I am a fan and loving it. And yeah, it's made things so much easier because there's so many things that we have to do. As you said, with the podcast, it never ends because I have my own show and I know. So it's like Yeah, but I can really make things like now they have quotes. And so I can go, I like to create a tease for my podcast. And so I'll see what quotes they pulled. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't, but then I can go to the transcript they gave me and then go back through that and say, oh, wait, maybe I could start it here instead. Maybe they pulled part of it, but they didn't quite go far enough. And that's what makes it lovely.
Absolutely. For those, again, who may not know, when you have a podcast, it is your ability not only to engage and create community, but it's a goldmine of content that can
Mm.
be used in different ways, repurposed in different ways.
Hmm.
However, the challenge is when you're a one person shop, you've got hundreds of hours of content. How
Yeah.
do you distribute it to different platforms, still make it sound like yourself, and evolve with you? Which is where, again, for those who don't know, large language models, part of the AI technology is called machine learning. When you
Mm.
give it feedback, that machine is learning. So
Mm.
that is where the beauty comes in, because would you want to constantly reiterate and repurpose and spend all of your precious hours of your life doing that, or do you want to proliferate your voice?
Hmm.
And it's a marketing tool essentially.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I would say is that because they do give you so much, I've had to figure out, okay, how much of this do I really want to use right now? And like, let me prioritize what platform do I want to spend more time on? And that has helped be more freeing as well because it's great, and other people, different clients that they have will want to use, XYZ thing where I prefer ABC thing. And that's great that they give you us that option. Um, so yeah, it makes it wonderful that you can, yeah, repurpose. I mean, what I've been doing lately is even finding either some old podcast episodes that I did before I got the podcast, and even some like other uh, webinars and things that I was doing, and I've uploaded them so that I can again pull some of that content out. And now I'm using it for like blog articles and things like that. So which I didn't take advantage of before because I didn't want to have to try to transcribe it and then figure out what I was going to use. So it's really been great for helping me get my voice out there in different places and different ways to accommodate different people who react to things differently. Some people like short form, some people like long form, some like videos, some like to read. So, yeah, it works out well.
I think the word empowering.
Mm.
Another word that comes to mind is that AI gives you grace.
Mm. That's yeah, because you can choose. It gives you that ability to say, yeah, I don't have to do everything myself. I can let this tool assist me and then yeah, it gives you grace and freedom to play around with it a little bit and um be playful with it. And I think that's a good thing to do. I think some people get so like, oh, freaked out about it, but just be light about it. I think if you infuse your light into it and your energy of what you want to receive from it, then that's what you're going to get back. I mean, in whatever area of your life, what you put out is going to be what you get back. And so treat it with light and the kindness and that you have like a virtual assistant that you don't have to pay too much. Well, you do have to pay a little bit, but you know what I mean. You don't have to track their hours, maybe necessarily or pay them benefits.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about that a lot. I get a lot of virtual assistance requests from LinkedIn, other places that want me to hire them. I'm like, I don't have a budget. I am still building my business, but
Right.
sending me AI, oh, it's exponentially shifted how quickly
Mhm.
I'm able to produce.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And to come up with topics like I've finally gotten smart and for this year now with my podcast is I finally decided to come up with themes, which I know is something that you do. And it's like, so I have a different theme each quarter of the year. And then they gave me some suggested topics of shows that I could do. And so I've already started to implement that. And it's so much better because I would sometimes I would plan ahead, but a lot of times it was like, okay, what are we going to talk about next week? Okay. I mean, when I have interviews, it's great. But if it's just me doing it, it's like, ah, but now I know what I can talk about. And it's like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, AI, for helping me.
I think of the word intentionality when I came up with the themes. It was before I even hit record my first podcast, and
Hmm.
the intention was, well, I want to be able to take that content, put it in a bucket, and then the
Hmm.
bucket tied to something else. So
Yeah,
when I do a solo cast, it'll be tied to one of my buckets, so to speak.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I find it so cool that we are in the, I would say, the era of AI grace.
Yes, I like that. Yeah.
Well, Grace, thank you so much for this conversation. Is there anything you want to share with the audience, aside from what will be placed in the show notes, where to find you, what you're going to be doing in 2025?
Well, what I am going to be doing is, for sure, is I am going to be running another of my 30-day programs. I call it Align to Shine Academy. And it is designed to help you overcome self-doubt, overcome poor self-worth issues. Um, and again, I had branded it a little bit more business side. I'm still playing with the idea of having it be really strictly more of a personal development first, and then later move it into how you can then apply it to your business. So I'm not entirely sure, but you can, if you go to aligned2shineacademy.net, you'll see the evolution, I guess, over this year as I because I plan on doing it every quarter, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go. So I have had good feedback from the ladies in the group, and I'm looking forward to making it better each time.
I love that, and I love that you are working from your heart center in this mission. So I until we talk again, hopefully you'll come back on my show. We can maybe go deeper in a topic. But thank you, Grace, for everything.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.